Now, the reason I'm here, and first of all, I would like to go ahead and offer my condolences to the friends and family of the victims of this tragic accident. I would also like to go ahead and thank the Sheriff's Office, Highway Patrol, other emergency responders, including the fire department and the township and the community in general, who have been so generous in reaching out their help to us. What we know so far is that just prior to 1945, on the 5th, a November 519 Echo Alpha, which is an Express 2000 FT, which is an aircraft that is licensed in the experimental category, it's what we call an experimental home built, all right, ended up coming to rest just past the field inside a wood line, a little less than a mile from here. The airplane is made out of composite material, it's fiberglass. It's built from a kit, and it's powered by a Continental IO 550 6-cylinder horizontally opposed engine that puts out about 300 horsepower. Now, what we know so far is that the aircraft hit in a nose-low attitude, and it appears that at the time that it impacted, that the aircraft might have been spinning to the right. We looked at the brakes in the trees above the aircraft accident site, and it appears that it only struck one tree limb prior to coming to rest. So it's nose down, it was spinning, and it appears that we have all four corners of the aircraft. And what that means is that we've looked at the wreckage that's there, and it appears that we have the tips of both wings, we have the tips of the horizontal stabilizer, we also have the nose section, and we also have the tail section. Now, one of the things that we've been doing while we've been on site so far is we're checking for what we call control continuity. And what control continuity is, we try to make a determination from the continuity of the flight controls to the cockpit on the aircraft. And what we know is that both ailerons are on the airplane wings. The horizontal stabilizer is also in place, along with the elevator and the rudder. And what the ailerons do is they control the aircraft in roll, the elevator controls the aircraft in pitch, and the rudders, which are operated by foot pedals, control the airplane in yaw. So that's all three axes on there. We've looked at the wreckage. There's no sign of any type of in-flight structural failure, fire, or explosion. We do not have any evidence of a post-impact fire on scene, and we do know that the aircraft did have fuel on it. As a matter of fact, one of the things that, as you approach it, if you've been anywhere near the wreckage site, you'll notice that you can smell aviation gasoline as you approach. Unfortunately, the gentleman that was on board is deceased. We don't have any evidence of any passengers being on board, even though it was a 4-seat aircraft. It appears that he was alone at the time. We've looked at the wings, and even though we have a smell of fuel on board, both fuel tank caps are in place, which indicates to us that the tanks may have ruptured on impact. We located the emergency locator transmitter on the airplane, and the ELT, as far as we know, after talking to the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center, no ELT was received by any ground station or by satellite. So, getting to the facts, conditions, and circumstances surrounding the accident, we're going to be looking at another number of items. One, we're going to be looking at the weather conditions at the time. As you know, it was rainy that day, so we do have meteorologists from our staff at our headquarters currently that are looking at the weather conditions at the time of the accident. We're looking at the systems on the airplane. One of the other things that we've done is we've been pulling the avionics systems out of the wreckage, and we're going to go ahead and retain those with the wreckage so that way we can go ahead and study them to determine whether or not there's any non-volatile memory on board. And what non-volatile memory means is that's the ability that once power is removed from the aircraft, the memory in those systems remains, and that way, if, depending on condition of those components, we can download them. And that will also give us performance information as to what the aircraft was doing. We also are sitting there and we're currently looking at air traffic control data, which includes both voice, radar, and what's known as ADS-B, which is Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast. And what ADS-B does is it interrogates the aircraft, and by doing that, it determines what its position is in time and space. Now, what will happen also is part of this investigation, we'll be doing stuff like looking at the pilot's records, we'll be looking at the maintenance records on the aircraft, and we'll also be looking at the pilot's flight physiology. In other words, what his medical certification was, okay, and what his physical condition was at the time of the accident. In addition to that, we'll be doing a number of other things in the background also, such as we'll be looking up registration information, we'll be looking up airworthiness information that's currently stored by the Federal Aviation Administration in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We're also looking at flight path reconstruction right now to determine 3D what the flight path reconstruction was after he left Lakefront Airport to here, and we're also making a determination as to what his final destination may have been. Now, one of the other things that we're also looking at while we're doing that is we're looking at survival factors such as the restraint systems in the aircraft, okay, how the structure reacted also to impact. Now, once I leave this location, okay, in approximately 30 days, the NTSB will go ahead and develop and produce a preliminary report. And that preliminary report will have the facts, conditions, and circumstances as we know it up to this point, okay, and it is publicly available on our website at www.ntsb.gov. Now, the NTSB operates under what's known as a Sunshine Act. And what the Sunshine Act means is that we can't hide anything as part of an investigation. It has to be produced publicly. And those reports, once we complete that preliminary report, more work will be done over approximately the next 18-month period. And at the end of the 18-month period, the NTSB will go ahead and produce a factual report, which it lets us know what the facts are that occurred with the accident at that point, and then we will produce a final report. Associated with that final report will be a docket that includes photos, any research, graphs, charts, etc. that support that investigation. Then approximately 60 to 90 days after that report is published, the Safety Board, which are the 5 members that are appointed by the President of the United States, will issue a statement of probable cause. Now, at any time during the investigation, if we find anything that's of concern to us for either the traveling public, the pilots, the aircraft, air traffic control, passengers, etc., that's of concern and could be a safety issue, we can issue recommendations at any time.